The emergency klaxon screamed through the corridors of Station Kepler 4 for it to be like a dying animal. Red lights bathed the metallic walls in waves of crimson, casting dancing shadows that seemed to reach out with clawed fingers. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed, her back against the cold bulkhead, her breath coming in short. Sharp gasps as she listened to the heavy footsteps echoing through the ventilation system above her head. Asterisk. Thump. Thump. Asterisk. Each step was measured, deliberate. Patient. Computer, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wailing alarm. Status report. The AI's response crackled through her CUM unit, distorted by interference. Critical breach in sectors 7 through 12. Life support compromised. Estimated time to total atmospheric failure, 47 minutes. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. 47 minutes. That's all the time she had left before the station's atmosphere would vent into the void of space, taking her with it. But the failing life support wasn't her biggest problem. The footsteps above stopped. Sarah held her breath, counting the seconds. 1, 2, 3. The silence stretched like a taut wire ready to snap. Then, impossibly, a voice drifted down through the maintenance grate directly above her head. Dr. Chen. The voice was cultured, almost musical, with an accent she couldn't place. I know you're there. I can smell your fear. Sarah's blood turned to ice water in her veins. She pressed herself harder against the wall, as if she could somehow disappear into the metal itself. The voice continued, patient and conversational, as if they were discussing the weather over coffee. You've been running for 37 minutes now. Most impressive for a human. Your species has such ... limited endurance. There was a pause, followed by what might have been a chuckle.
What?
But you must be getting tired.
Right.
Your heart rate is elevated. Your breathing is labored. Why don't you come out? Make this easier on both of us. Sarah's mind raced. She'd seen what remained of the other researchers. Dr. Martinez, torn apart in the laboratory. Professor Kowalski, his body drained of blood in the communications room. The thing hunting her wasn't human, despite its voice. It was something else. Something that had arrived on the supply ship 3 days ago, hidden among the cargo. I can hear you thinking, the voice said, closer now. Such a busy little mind, full of questions. I'll answer them all, Sarah. May I call you Sarah? We'll have plenty of time to talk once you stop running. The footsteps resumed, moving away from her position. Sarah waited until she couldn't hear. Then many more before she dared to move. She needed to reach the escape pods. The station was lost, but maybe she could still survive. Maybe she could warn Earth about what was coming. She crept through the maintenance tunnel, her palms slick with sweat as she crawled toward the pod bay. The tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for her shoulders, and the metal groaned ominously with each movement. Behind her, the footsteps had stopped again. Sarah, the voice called out, echoing through the station's corridors. I want you to know something. I've been hunting for a very long time, centuries by your measure. I've tracked prey across 100 worlds, through asteroid fields and nebulae, in the crushing depths of gas giants and the frozen wastes of dead moons. Sarah kept crawling, her knees scraping against the rough metal. Almost there, just a few more meters. But humans, the voice continued, humans are different, special. Do you know why? Despite herself, Sarah found herself listening. There was something hypnotic about the voice, something that made her want to stop and listen. She fought against the urge, focusing on the growing light ahead that marked the end of the tunnel. It's not your intelligence. Other species are smarter. It's not your strength. Many are stronger. It's not even your technology. Others have surpassed you in that regard. The voice paused, and Sarah could swear she heard it moving closer. It's your hope, your refusal to accept death even when it's inevitable. Your ability to keep fighting when any rational creature would surrender. Sarah reached the end of the tunnel and peered out into the pod bay. 3 escape pods remained, their status lights glowing green. She could make it. She had to make it. That's what makes you so delicious, the voice whispered. And Sarah realized with horror that it was coming from behind her now in the tunnel itself. She burst from the maintenance shaft and ran toward the nearest pod, her legs pumping as adrenaline flooded her system. Behind her, something large and fast was emerging from the tunnel, moving with impossible speed. She didn't dare look back. The pod's hatch was open. Sarah dove inside and slammed her fist on the emergency launch button. The hatch began to seal, with mechanical precision, but it was taking too long. It's too long. A shadow fell across the narrowing gap. Sarah looked up to see a figure standing in the doorway, tall and lean, wearing the uniform of a station security officer. But the face was wrong. The features were too perfect, too symmetrical. And the eyes were completely black, like looking into the depths of space itself. "Hello, Sarah," the thing said, and smiled. Its teeth were sharp, predatory, and far too many. "Going somewhere?" The hatch sealed with a pneumatic hiss, and Sarah felt the pod's thrusters engage. She was thrown back into her seat as the pod shot away from the station, escaping into the star-filled void. Through the small porthole, she could see station. Kepler 4 for to be growing smaller, its lights flickering and dying as the life support finally failed. She'd made it. She was alive. But as she set course for Earth, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. In the reflection of the porthole, she caught a glimpse of something that made her blood freeze. There, in the pod's small cargo compartment, was a maintenance uniform. The same uniform the thing had been wearing, and it was moving. Chapter 2. The Long. Journey home, the escape pod lifeline hurtled through the void at maximum velocity, its fusion drive pushing Sarah away from the dying station at nearly 15% of light speed. She sat in the pilot's seat, her hands gripping the controls so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Staring at the maintenance uniform in the cargo compartment behind her, it hadn't moved again. Not visibly. But Sarah knew it was there, waiting, watching. The thing that had hunted her through the station corridors had somehow made it aboard her escape pod. The question was, how long did she have before it revealed itself? The pod's computer chimed softly. Estimate arrival at Earth. 14 days, 7 hours, 23 minutes. 14 days. Sarah closed her eyes and tried to calculate her options. The pod's life support was designed for a single occupant on a 2-week journey. Food and water would last exactly that long, with no margin for error. But she wasn't alone. "Computer, run a complete diagnostic on all systems," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Diagnostic complete, all systems nominal. No anomalies detected." Sarah frowned. If the thing was aboard, why wasn't it showing up on sensors? Unless it was something the sensors couldn't detect. Something that existed in the spaces between normal matter, the way shadows existed in the spaces between light. She activated the pod's internal security camera and switched the display to the cargo compartment. The maintenance uniform lay crumpled in the corner, exactly as it had been for the past 6 hours. But as Sarah watched, she noticed something that made her breath catch in her throat. The uniform was breathing, not the fabric itself, but something underneath it. A slow, rhythmic rise and fall that was barely perceptible. Sarah enhanced the image, adjusting the contrast and brightness, but the more she focused on it, the more normal it appeared, until she looked away and then caught it moving again in her peripheral vision. "What are you?" she whispered. The uniform didn't answer, but Sarah could swear she heard something that might have been laughter. So quiet it could have been the pod's life support system cycling. She needed to think. The thing had been toying with her on the station, hunting her like a cat with a mouse. It could have killed her at any time, but it hadn't. It had seemed to enjoy the chase, the fear, the desperation in her voice. That meant it wanted her alive. For now? But why? And more importantly, how could she use that to her advantage? Sarah pulled up the pod's communication system and began composing a message to Earth. She had to warn them about what was coming. The thing had mentioned hunting across 100 worlds, tracking prey through space. If it had found humanity, if it was coming to Earth, ... Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. What could she say? That a shape-shifting alien monster had destroyed Station Kepler 4 for to be? That it was now aboard her escape pod, wearing the face of a security officer. They'd think she was suffering from space madness, a psychological break brought on by the trauma of losing her colleagues. But she had to try. "Emergency transmission to Earth Command," she began. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist. Station Kepler 44, to B. The station has been destroyed by a hostile alien entity. All personnel are dead. I am the sole survivor, currently aboard escape pod Lifeline en route to Earth. The entity appears to be a shapeshifter with advanced hunting capabilities. It has likely infiltrated human space and may represent a significant threat to Earth's population. Request immediate quarantine protocols upon my arrival." She paused, looking back at the cargo compartment. The uniform was still there, still breathing, still watching. "Additional note," she continued. The entity may have the ability to mimic human appearance perfectly. Trust no one. Verify all identities through multiple sources. It feeds on fear and seems to enjoy the hunt more than the kill. Now, this may be its weakness. Sarah sent the message and leaned back in her chair. At this distance, it would take the signal 3 days to reach Earth. 3 days before anyone would know what had happened. 3 days before they could begin preparing for what was coming. Behind her, the maintenance uniform shifted slightly. When Sarah spun around to look at it directly, it was motionless again. But she could feel eyes on her, watching from the shadows. Between the fabric folds, "I know you're there," she said to the empty air. "I know you're listening. What do you want?" The response came not from the cargo compartment, but from the pod's communication system. The voice was the same cultured musical tone she'd heard on the station. But now it was coming from the speakers all around her. "I want to understand," it said. "Your species fascinates me, Sarah. You're trapped in a small metal box, hurtling through the void with a predator that could end your existence in seconds. Yet you don't despair. You don't surrender. Instead, you plan. You scheme. You hope." Sarah's hand moved slowly toward the emergency controls. If she could decompress the pod's atmosphere, maybe she could kill the thing. Of course, she'd die too, but at least Earth would be safe. "I wouldn't," the voice said, as if reading her thoughts. "Vacuum won't harm me, but it will certainly kill you. And then who would warn your precious Earth? Who would tell them that the harvester has come?" "Harvester?" Sarah asked, her hand freezing above the controls. "That's what your kind will call me eventually, when they realize what I am, what I do." The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, filling the small pod with its presence. "I harvest fear, Sarah. I cultivate it, nurture it, feed on it. And humans produce the most exquisite fear I've ever encountered." Sarah felt her heart hammering in her chest. "You're going to kill everyone on Earth. Kill them." "Oh no, that would be wasteful. I'm going to farm them, breed them, create endless generations of humans who exist solely to provide me with sustenance. Your species will become my livestock, Sarah, and you're going to help me." The uniform in the cargo compartment was gone. Sarah spun around, searching every corner of the pod, but there was no sign of it. No sign of the thing that had been wearing. "Where are you?" she demanded. "I'm everywhere, Sarah. In the walls, in the air, in the spaces between heartbeats. I've been studying you for 6 hours now, learning how you think, how you react, how you taste fear. And I must say, you're delicious." Sarah's vision blurred as panic threatened to overwhelm her. She forced herself to breathe slowly, to think clearly. The thing was trying to break her mind, to make her helpless with terror. She couldn't let it win. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "What? Why reveal your plans?" "Because fear is sweeter when it's mixed with knowledge. When you know exactly what's coming and how powerless you are to stop it." The voice paused, and Sarah could swear she heard it tasting the air. "Tell me, Sarah, what does it feel like to know that you're going to be responsible for the enslavement of your entire species?" Sarah closed her eyes and tried to center herself. Think. There had to be a way out of this. There was always a way out. The thing had said it was everywhere, in the walls, in the air. But that was impossible. The pod's sensors would detect any foreign matter and less. "You're not really here," she said suddenly. You're still on the station. The voice laughed, rich and warm and terrifying. Am I? Then who's been watching you, Sarah? Who's been breathing in your cargo compartment? You're in my head, Sarah said, her confidence growing. Some kind of psychic projection. You planted. Something in my mind on the station, didn't you? I saw your face through the pod's hatch. The laughter stopped. For a moment there was only silence and the hum of the pod systems. Then the voice spoke again, but now it sounded different. Colder, hungrier, clever girl, but it doesn't matter. The seed is planted. By the time you reach Earth, I'll have grown strong enough to take physical form, and then the real hunt begins. Sarah opened her eyes and looked around the pod. She was alone, truly alone, but she could still feel the thing's presence in the back of her mind, like a cold weight pressing against her consciousness. 14 days to Earth. 14 days to find a way to stop it. She pulled up the pod's medical database, began searching for information about psychic parasites, neural implants, anything that might explain what was happening to her. She had to find a way to cut the connection, to prevent the thing from using her as a gateway to Earth, because if she failed, humanity would become nothing more than cattle, and she would be the one who led the predator to the slaughter. Chapter 3. The Weight of Truth. Day 7 of the journey home, and Sarah hadn't slept in 48 hours. Dark circles ringed her eyes, and her hands trembled as she worked at the pod's medical station. She'd been trying everything: neural suppressants, electromagnetic pulse therapy, even crude surgical options, but nothing had worked. The thing in her head was still there, growing stronger with each passing hour. You're looking tired, Sarah, the voice said, materializing from the silence like smoke. Perhaps you should rest. You'll need your strength for what's coming. Sarah ignored it and continued her work. She'd found something in the medical database, reference to an experimental procedure developed by Dr. Yamamoto at the Martian Research Institute. A way to create targeted neural barriers using the pod's limited medical nanobots. It was dangerous, with a 60% chance of permanent brain damage, but it might be her only hope. I can see what you're thinking, the voice continued. Such a fascinating mind, layer upon layer of determination, wrapped around a core of pure terror. You're going to try to lobotomize yourself, aren't you? How delightfully human. Sarah's hand paused over the injection controls. Will it work? Oh, it might. You might succeed in severing our connection. Of course, you'll also likely destroy your higher cognitive functions in the process. You'll arrive at Earth as a drooling vegetable, unable to warn anyone about what's coming. Is that really what you want? Sarah stared at the injection device. The thing was right. Even if the procedure worked, she'd be in no condition to help Earth defend itself. But if she didn't try, she'd be nothing more than a doorway for the creature. To enter her world, there is another option, the voice said softly. You could embrace what you're becoming. Accept the gift I'm offering you. Gift? Sarah laughed bitterly. You mean becoming your puppet? I mean becoming something more than human. I've been alive for millennia, Sarah. I've seen civilizations rise and fall, watched stars be born and die. I could share that with you. Make you immortal, give you power beyond your imagination. Sarah felt a strange tugging sensation in her mind, as if something was trying to pull her consciousness deeper into itself. She fought against it, but the sensation was seductive, promising knowledge and experiences beyond anything she'd ever dreamed of. Could show you the birth of the universe, the voice whispered. The secret songs that planets sing when they think no one is listening. The taste of starlight on your tongue. All you have to do is stop fighting me. For a moment, Sarah was tempted. She could see it all in her mind. Vast cosmic vistas, the dance of galaxies, the intimate secrets of creation itself. It would be so easy to just let go, to surrender to the thing's promises. Then she remembered Dr. Martinez's face, frozen in a scream of terror. Professor Kowalski's body drained and empty. The 23 other researchers who had died on the station, all because this thing had decided to hunt. Them, no, she said, and activated the injection. The nanobots flooded her system, seeking out the alien presence in her mind. Sarah felt them working. Tiny machines programmed to identify and isolate foreign neural patterns. The thing in her head screamed, a sound like breaking glass that seemed to come from inside her skull. "You stupid, stubborn creature." The voice raged. "You have no idea what you're destroying. I was offering you immortality, and you chose death instead." Sarah gritted her teeth as the nanobots did their work. She could feel parts of her mind going numb, memories and knowledge being cut away, along with the alien presence. The price of freedom was higher than she'd expected. "I'm not destroying anything," she gasped. "I'm just ... refusing to be your victim." The voice grew fainter, more distant. "You think you've won? You think this changes anything? I have other servants, Sarah, other doorways. This is just the beginning." Then it was gone, leaving Sarah alone with the humming of the pod's systems and the growing emptiness in her head. She could feel the damage the nanobots had done, the gaps in her memory, the knowledge that would never return. But she was free. The thing no longer had a hold on her. She slumped in her chair and tried to take stock of what remained. Her basic memories were intact: her name, her profession, her understanding of the threat facing Earth. But years of education and experience had been stripped away, leaving her feeling hollow and uncertain. A soft chime from the communications console drew her attention. She'd received a response from Earth Command. Sarah opened the message with shaking hands. "Dr. Chen, this is Admiral Morrison, Earth Defense Force. We've received your transmission and are taking it seriously. Quarantine protocols are being established at Luna Station. However, we need more information. Can you provide detailed specifications on the entity's capabilities, physical characteristics, and weaknesses? We're also dispatching the heavy cruiser, Indomitable, to intercept your pod. ETA. 6 days." Sarah stared at the message. 6 days. She had 6 days to prepare for what was coming. 6 days to figure out how to convince Earth's military that the threat was real and imminent. But first, she needed to understand what she was dealing with. The thing had mentioned other servants, other doorways. That meant it wasn't traveling alone. There were others of its kind, or perhaps humans who had been turned into its agents. She accessed the pod's long-range sensors and began scanning the space around her. It's nothing at first, just the usual background radiation and distant starlight. But then she noticed something that made her blood run cold. There were other ships out there, dozens of them, all heading toward Earth from different directions. Some were clearly alien in design, sleek and organic-looking, like predators swimming through the void. Others appeared to be human vessels, but their transponder signals were wrong, broadcasting identification codes that didn't match any known Earth ships. The Harvester had been telling the truth. This was just the beginning. Sarah began composing another message to Earth's command, her fingers flying over the keyboard despite the trembling in her hands. She had to warn them about the incoming fleet, had to give them enough information to mount a defense. Odd as she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was already too late. The thing had been planning this for a long time. It had been patient, methodical, seeding its agents throughout human space, waiting for the right moment to strike. And now that moment had come. Earth had 6 days to prepare for war. 6 days to ready its defenses against an enemy that fed on fear and could wear any face. 6 days to save humanity from becoming livestock. Sarah finished her message and sent it into the void, then settled back to wait. The next few days would determine whether her sacrifice had been worth it, whether humanity would survive the coming harvest. In the distance, the alien ships continued their relentless advance toward Earth, carrying death and terror in their wake, and somewhere among them, Sarah knew the Harvester itself was coming, hungry for the fear of 7 billion human souls. Hush Hush, Chapter 4. The Reckoning. The heavy cruiser Indomitable was a magnificent sight against the starfield, its hull bristling with weapons and defensive systems. Sarah watched through the pod's porthole as the massive warship maneuvered alongside her tiny escape pod, its docking clamps extending like mechanical arms to embrace her vessel. Escape pod lifeline. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Indomitable. We're bringing you aboard for immediate decontamination and debriefing. Are you ready for docking? Sarah keyed her com system. Ready, Captain? But I need to warn you, the entity I encountered has the ability to mimic human appearance perfectly. You need to verify my identity through multiple sources before allowing me onto your ship. Copy that, Doctor. We've established strict protocols based on your earlier transmissions. Every person on this ship has been DNA scanned and psychologically evaluated. We're taking no chances. The docking procedure was smooth and efficient. Within minutes, Sarah found herself in a sterile containment chamber aboard the Indomitable, facing Captain Rodriguez through a transparent aluminum barrier. The captain was a stern-faced woman in her 50s, her gray hair pulled back in a regulation bun, her dark eyes sharp and intelligent. Dr. Chen, the captain said, I'm going to be direct with you. Your story sounds impossible. Shape-shifting aliens, psychic parasites, an invasion fleet, it reads like something out of a science fiction novel. But the fact remains that Station Kepler 442b has gone dark, and our long-range sensors are detecting anomalous contacts approaching Earth. Sarah leaned forward, pressing her hands against the barrier. How many ships? What? 47 confirmed. Contacts approaching from multiple vectors.
Ow.
They're still 6 days out, but they're moving fast. Faster than anything in our fleet. Captain Rodriguez paused, studying Sarah's face. Tell me about the entity. What exactly did you encounter? Sarah closed her eyes and tried to organize her fragmented memories. The nanobots had done their work, too well leaving gaps in her recollection that made it hard to piece together a coherent narrative. It called itself the Harvester, she said slowly. It claimed to have been hunting for centuries, across multiple worlds. It feeds on fear, terror, the emotional responses of sentient beings. It can take any form, mimic any appearance, but its true nature is ... predatory. You mentioned other servants, other doorways? What did you mean by that? Air's blood chilled. As the memories came flooding back, it's been here before. In human space, it's been planting seeds, creating agents, preparing for this moment. Some of those ships you're detecting, they might be human vessels, but they're not under human control anymore. Captain Rodriguez's expression grew grim. We've been trying to hail the approaching ships. Most don't respond, but the ones that do, their communications are strange. The voices sound human, but the speech patterns are off, like they're reading from a script they don't quite understand. That's them, Sarah said. The Harvester's agents, they'll try to get close to Earth, 2 major population centers, before revealing their true nature. Once they do, the real harvest begins. The captain was quiet for a long moment, digesting this information. Finally, she spoke again. Morrison has authorized me to share classified information with you. We've been developing new weapons systems, based on Xenotech, recovered from the Rigel expedition. Quantum disruptors, psychic dampeners, things that might work against entities like the one you described. Will it be enough? Sarah asked. I don't know, but we're going to find out. Earth's entire defense fleet is being mobilized. Every ship, every station, every orbital platform. This is the fight of our lives, Dr. Chen, and we're going to need every advantage we can get. A soft chime interrupted their conversation. Captain, came a voice over the com system. We're receiving a transmission from one of the approaching vessels. It's asking for you personally. Captain Rodriguez frowned. Put it through. The containment chamber's speakers crackled to life, and Sarah's heart stopped as she heard a familiar voice, cultured, with an accent that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Captain Rodriguez, the voice said, how lovely to speak with you again. I trust you're taking good care of my dear friend Dr. Chen. The captain's face went pale. Who is this? Oh, do you know my name? Oh, I know many things about you, Captain. Your service record, your family back on Earth, your daughter's school schedule. Such a bright girl, young Maria, she's studying xenobiology, isn't she? Is following in Dr. Chen's footsteps. How ... fitting. Sarah felt the walls of the chamber closing in around her. It's the Harvester, she whispered. Don't listen to it. Don't let it into your head. I'm hurt, Sarah. The voice continued now, addressing her directly. After all we've shared, after all the gifts I tried to give you, you still think of me as your enemy. But I'm not here to fight. I'm here to offer your species a choice. What kind of choice? Captain Rodriguez demanded. Surrender now, and I'll make the transition quick and painless. Your people will become my servants, yes, but they'll retain their consciousness, their memories, their ability to feel joy and love and hope. Resist, and I'll harvest every last drop of terror from your species before I'm done. I'll turn Earth into an abattoir of fear, and your children will know nothing but screaming for the rest of their short lives. Sarah pressed her hands against the barrier, trying to reach Captain Rodriguez. Don't believe it. It's lying. The harvester doesn't offer mercy, it only knows how to consume. 24 hours, the voice said, ignoring Sarah's words. I'll give you 24 hours to consider my offer. After that, the harvest begins whether you surrender or not. And Captain Rodriguez, give my regards to your daughter. I'll be seeing her soon. Transmission cut out, leaving them in silence. Captain Rodriguez stood frozen, her face a mask of barely controlled rage and terror. My daughter, she whispered. How could it know about my daughter? Because it's been watching us, Sarah said, studying us, learning our weaknesses, our fears, our connections to each other. That's what it does. It finds what matters most to us and uses it against us. The captain activated her comm system. With shaking hands, Bridge, this is Rodriguez. I want an immediate communication with Earth Command, Priority Alpha, and get me a secure channel to Luna Station. I need to speak with my family. Captain, came the reply. We're having trouble with communications. Something's jamming our signals. We can receive, but we can't transmit, and we're on our own, Captain Rodriguez said grimly. Sound general quarters, all hands to battle stations, and activate the quantum disruptors. We're going to need them. As the ship's klaxons began to wail, Sarah felt a familiar chill run down her spine. The harvester was coming, and it was bringing all the terrors of the universe with it. Before, the first time since her escape from the station, she felt something else as well. Hope humanity might be facing its greatest threat, but they weren't defenseless. They had weapons, they had warning, and most importantly, they had each other. The harvester fed on fear, but it had never encountered a species that could transform that fear into determination, that could use terror as fuel for courage. Captain, Sarah said, there's something else you need to know. The harvester told me that humans are special, that we're different from other species it's encountered. It said we never give up, never surrender, even when death is certain. Captain Rodriguez looked at her through the barrier, and Sarah saw the steel return to her eyes. Then let's prove it right. Let's show this thing what humans are really capable of when we're fighting for our survival. The Indomitable changed course, heading toward the approaching alien fleet. Behind them, Earth's defense forces were mobilizing, preparing for the battle that would determine the fate of humanity. And in the depths of space, the harvester waited. Hungry and patient, ready to feast on the fear of 7 billion souls. But it had made one critical error. It had assumed that fear would weaken humanity, make them easier to consume. It had never encountered a species that could turn fear into fury, desperation into determination. The harvester was about to learn why humans had spread across the galaxy, why they had survived ice ages and plagues and wars, why they had never given up in the face of impossible odds. It was about to learn that sometimes the prey can bite back. # epilogue. The answer, the battle for Earth, lasted 3 days. Sarah stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable, watching as the last of the harvester's fleet was destroyed by a coordinated strike from Earth's defense forces. The alien ships burned like dying stars against the void, their organic hulls rupturing and spilling their contents into space. The harvester itself had been aboard. The largest vessel, a living ship that seemed to breathe and pulse with malevolent life. When the quantum disruptors finally breached its defenses, the creature's death scream had been heard across every communication channel in the solar system. A sound of pure rage and disbelief that something so ancient and powerful could be defeated by such a young species. It's over, Captain Rodriguez said, joining Sarah at the viewport. "The threat is eliminated." Sarah nodded, but her expression remained troubled. "Is it? We destroyed the ships, but the Harvester's influence was already spreading. There could be sleeper agents throughout human space, waiting for the right moment to activate." "Then we'll find them," the captain said firmly. "We'll develop new detection methods, new security protocols. We'll learn from this experience and make sure it never happens again. And if something else comes, something worse." Captain Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, considering the question. Then she smiled, and Sarah saw something in her eyes that she recognized, the same stubborn determination that had driven her to escape the station. To fight against impossible odds, to refuse surrender even when death seemed certain. "Then we'll fight them too," the captain said. "That's what we do, Dr. Chun. That's what humans have always done. We face the darkness, and we don't back down." Sarah thought about the Harvester's final words, transmitted just before its ship was destroyed. It had asked the question that had haunted her since their first encounter on the station. "Why don't you run, human? Why don't you give up when you know you can't win?" And now, finally, she had the answer. "Because running never solved anything," she said softly. "Because someone has to stand up to the monsters, even if they're stronger than us. Because the universe is vast and dark and full of things that want to hurt us, but we're not alone. We have each other, and that makes us stronger than any individual predator." She paused, watching as the last burning fragments of the alien fleet drifted away into the void. "Because we're human," she concluded. "And humans don't run, Captain." Rodriguez nodded. "No, we don't." In the months that followed, humanity would indeed discover sleeper agents throughout their territory. They would develop new technologies, new defense systems, new ways of identifying and neutralizing threats. They would prepare for the next invasion, the next harvester, the next cosmic horror that came calling. But they would face it together, as they had always faced the darkness, with courage, with determination, and with the absolute refusal to surrender that had carried them from the caves of ancient Earth to the stars themselves. The Harvester had been right about one thing. Humans were special, not because they were stronger or smarter than other species, but because they possessed something rarer and more valuable than any physical attribute. They possessed hope and hope. As any monster who had ever tried to break the human spirit could attest, was the most dangerous weapon in the universe